Mansfield today on a Tuesday, and that means we're joined by Advocate Lance Brogden to look at things legal. Lance, nice to have you with us again.
Thanks, Jeremy. Always great to be, old friend.
You lied to me yesterday. Should have thought that. He's a lawyer. Of course he's going to. We were having a chat earlier this week over a cup of green tea, Lance and I. And we were talking about, we got into talking, how the heck did we get into talking about trusts? Oh, that was after the green tea when we went on to other stuff.
The lack of trust in each other.
Yeah. No, but I mean, you know, I always thought that trusts were like for really wealthy people. You know, it's a wealthy family, so they have a family trust and all that sort of thing.
I think that is, it's a misconception. The value of trusts runs deep, and it's very important. There's a lot of misunderstandings and a lot of falsities out there that trusts don't protect. But there are two big areas. There are trusts that are corporate trusts and business trusts. But the one I'd like to focus on today, Jeremy, and it's very important, are trusts that for families that flow out of your will and your testament, etc., etc. And I really think it's got to be demystified to some degree. People misunderstand it, think it's only for wealthy people, but it has a very important role.
Okay. Well, how do we demystify this then?
Let's speak to specialists.
Okay.
You know, we have some great guys at Capital Legacy, great organization, leading the way in this. So why don't we go across to the CEO of Capital Legacy? Alex Sivanides, are you around, mate? Because we'd love to chat to you about this.
I'm here. I'm here.
Good man.
And I heard you positioning me as an expert, so I hope I live up to your expectations.
I think, Al, what I want to get to is, you know, the words like trusts and many other are just thrown around. You guys are on the cutting edge. You're looking at new ways of different type of trusts for different reasons. Please give us a bit of a lead here. Come on.
Yeah, absolutely. So it all comes down to that moment when you engage with a client. And if you throw something out there that's scary and you say the words testamentary trust, you're gonna scare them. And it comes from what you guys are chatting now about them. There's been a lot of fallacy, there's a lot of misunderstanding around trust. So what we've adopted is a little bit more use of human words. So we say, look, you know, if I'm sitting with a client doing their will, we say, we need a trust for your children. We call that a children's trust. It's really easy. We're going to create it in your will, and when you pass away, this trust will be created by the executor. And so we dumb it down a bit. If we have an individual whose spouse, for example, thinks a budget is a target, we'll say, perfect. You need what's called a widow's trust. This way we can put the money inside the trust, and the spouse can live off the income. And then that money, whatever's left, can go onto your, say, children afterwards. So they're all, in essence, what we call, and Lance, you'll know these words, that they're all, in essence, testamentary trusts. But we've used the words widows or children's, and we actually put them in the will with those names so people can associate, I've got this trust with this need. And they're really easy to create in the will.
Al, I want to ask you, this is quite important. Either way, when somebody passes away and trusts are created, there are costs. There are costs either way, whether you have a will or not. But with a trust, the reason of having a more focused trust, a disciplined trust, and not just an open-ended trust that you get off the internet, I think is critically important. And an example I've seen, and you mentioned now, if it's not handled quickly by a good executor, it lingers on and drags on, and the family could be in dire situation where assets have to be sold off until this goes through. It's a timing issue, and this is why you have to have it regular, updated, and accurate. Am I correct?
Well, let's also touch on your examples for the viewers, right? So why would you need a children's trust, a testamentary trust that's created in your will? We said it's easy. You don't need to be scared of it. Two reasons, right? So the first is, if you do have cash that's going to your children, and if you don't create that testamentary trust, or what we call a children's trust, that money's going to the government's guardian fund. You've then got to go stand in the queue in Pretoria to go get the money once a month or once a quarter. And that's a headache for any guardian that's looking after a child. The second reason is, if you've got property, say, that needs to be inherited by the children, if that child's under the age of 18, they don't have any legal basis to, say, for example, allow us to sell or rent out the property. And without that testamentary trust, you've got to hold it in custody by the guardian. It can't move. You can't do anything. And that leads into your what you were saying there, Lance, where, for example, there's not enough money and things need to get sold. Now you can't actually sell this property because you didn't create a trust. Going into the fees. So, I mean, the big scary thing when coming to estates is the executive fees. Everyone knows the executive fee, 3.5% plus VAT. But what actually kills legacies or bequests is the amount of trustee fees. Now, remember, a testamentary trust has a certain term. In a children's trust, for example, you'll say, no, I want the trust to be until my children are 25. Okay, so we might have 10 or 15 years but that's 10 or 15 years of an annual trustee fee. And that adds up to far more than what the executive fee is. And then to your point, Lance, what ends up happening is, how do the trustees then get paid? What if there's no money in the actual trust? So a little bit of planning needs to go into setting up the testamentary trust. It's not difficult, and making sure that there's some form of protection against the fees, so the fees don't need to get paid. It's like we do it via a policy, or at least some form of negotiation. And you need to talk to your financial advisor. Make sure that there's going to be enough actual cash from, say, a life policy to fund the needs of the children or the widow. And hopefully we'll touch on maybe what we call a provider's trust just now.
Well, let's get to that, because what happens is, and in my experience, the trust is there, but it's not revisited often enough. Things change, financial circumstances change, needs change. You could have had one set up when your kids are minors and now they're at university. There are different costs involved. But another little thing that kicks in, Alex, is that there actually costs involved the day that trust comes into being and living. And where's the cash to do that? Sometimes money's tied up in the estate. There was only one earner. The man or the woman was the earner. That person passes. What then? Where's the cash flow to do this?
Yeah, that all comes down to the planning. And honestly speaking, when there's even if a person's taken life insurance for these kind of problems, when that life insurance pays the widow or the family, I'm the guy that's got to go to the family and say, that money you just got, can we have a whole chunk of it to set up the fees? You don't want that. You don't want to go to a widow and say, can I please have a piece of the money that you now need to live off? It's the most awkward conversation in the world. So that's why we do what we do at Capital Legacy. That's why we've got that policy that goes with the will, that takes care of all those fees. It's a completely seamless transaction that happens. So all those fees you don't have to worry about. But talking about your point about needing to update and keep up to date. When you create a children's trust or widow's trust or provider trust, it's really important to get professionals to run the trust who carry what we call a fiduciary responsibility or a state of higher being, that accountability, and be personally liable to the beneficiaries of the trust. But it's equally important to get someone who's close to the beneficiary, someone like the guardian. Because I'm sitting there, I don't know the kids. I don't know that the one's really good at cricket and needs to go to a cricket tour next year, and I can't anticipate that well enough in terms of the budgeting. So we always encourage you to have a professional trustee and a personal trustee, so that we can get that balance right of professionalism and that personal touch. But it's exactly to your point about through the years needs change, and having a personal trustee helps us anticipate those changes and put aside money for the next year and the next year and the next year. Because typically speaking, when you run a testamentary trust, you do all your payments annually, or you try to do all your payments annually. So you pay the school fees up front, you get the textbooks up front, just to try to bring the transaction counts down. And that helps us a lot.
Alex, I just want to say thank you so much. There's so much more we want to chat to you guys about. Well done on your products, your solutions, your leadership in the industry, Capital Legacy. Thank you very much.
They are the guys, of course, who bring you business with Chris Gibbons every Monday here on Mansfield Today. Alex, if you don't mind me leaning on you, would it be possible for you to join us and maybe bring along your partner, the MD of Capital Legacy, Brandon Garbutt, next week? Because it's just occurred to me now that while we've been talking, that next month is Will's month. September 13th being Will's Week, but next month is actually Will's Month. Can we get the two of you and Zoom you in next week on this show and talk about wills and testaments as it is?
That'd be great.
Thank you.
That'd be great.
Alex Simonini, CEO of Capital Legacy, joining us here on The Legal Show on Mansfield Today.
Wow, was that great, eh?
Yeah, it was yesterday. Well, it was nice because I didn't have to do any work. You had to do the work for a change.
Jeremy, now my chance to ask you a question.
Yes.
Okay. What is the worst legal advice you've ever been given?
The worst legal advice?
Yeah.
Oof. Probably the worst advice I was ever given was years ago when somebody said, "Trust me, I'm a lawyer." No, you can't say that word.
I can't say anything. Thanks, Jim. Look forward to next week.
Thank you, bud. And as I said, we'll be joined by the guys from Capital Legacy next week. Beginning of Wills Month. Let's talk about wills. As much as people want to shy away from them, they're a vitally important part of anything in your life. Until then, thank you for joining us. If you did enjoy the show, remember to hit the subscribe button. That's it from Mansfield Today. Goodbye.